Yeah, so namaste and vanakkam and good evening. I feel very, very humbled and blessed to be here today, especially after listening to the earlier speakers. I mean, the amount of work that Hand in Hand is doing, I'm really awed at the kind of work that they're doing. And Dr. Priya's erudition on Kambaramayana, I mean, that was really great. I'm not going to take too much of your time. I know it's very little difficult after a heavy lunch to sit through a heavy session like this. So I would try to make it a little interactive. And so I will not take too much of the time. So I'm kind of looking at this as the theme, building positive peace for ethnic and racial underrepresented populations and other communities marginalized by mainstream culture. This is what I wanted to talk about. So when you're talking about ethnic and racial, I mean in India and thankfully in Tamil Nadu we don't have too much of a problem there, but then there is a big community of marginalized sections here. With all due respects to the men here, the men feel very entitled, right? So especially in the marginalized segments, there are a lot of issues. So I'm going to be touching about that today. And so I represent this organization called Shraddha Maanu Foundation. Incidentally, we also work in mainstreaming the marginalized women and children. And we do that using education pathways. I would just like to open this entire discussion. The next slide, please. I'd like to start with this opening verse. Dharanat dharma mityahuhu dharmo dharayate prajaha yatsyad dharana samyuktam sadharma iti nishchayaha, which means, this is from Mahabharata, and this means dharma is the one that sustains the society, dharma maintains the social order, dharma ensures well-being and progress of humanity, and dharma is surely that which fulfills these objectives. And hence, because we don't have too much of a time, I'm kind of moving forward. And hence the big question to ask is justice the same as dharma? Which Dr. Priya was also talking about. I mean, when people talk to me about Shraddha, they used to ask, so what is the meaning of Shraddha? So I found it extremely difficult to explain Shraddha, and I think it's the same with dharma. And even Shanti. These are words which are extremely difficult to translate into another language and still have the same spirit conveyed. So these are some pictures for you. I don't know how many of you can relate to these pictures. These are pictures off the ground the last 2-3 days. Okay, we've been very, very closely working. And Dr. Priya was talking about Dharma Yuddham. And actually, I'm in a big Dharma Yuddham. There are people, my team on the ground, and I'm here. So it was a Yuddham between two good things, being here and then being there. So this is something that's happening. I will tell you why I put this picture here. We'll move to the next slide. This picture is there because I'm trying to, kind of... Can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah. I'm trying to explain, what justice and what dharma could mean. Thanks. So justice, typically look at the picture there, next to justice, you see, parents with a couple of children. Now today, I mean, not just today, the family situation, the family institution is very intact, has been intact. Maybe today there is a little bit of a ruffle here and there. Parents are willing to give their arm and a hand to ensure that children are successful. They would go to any extent. I mean, it could be, success could be a wrong word. It could be anything. It could be to do with health. It could be to do with, education. It could be anything. They would go far, in terms of helping the children. If a parent fails to do that, I'm sure the lawyer here will agree, there is a way to legally secure that. Yes, ma'am? Yes. Look at the other picture there. The parents are there. The parents who have done everything. They are there, but the children are not with them. They have gone looking for seeking greener pastures, which is what obviously the parents wanted. There's no question of whether it's right or wrong or whatever, but I don't think there is a rule which could, by law you could force a child to take care of the parent, right? That is dharma. Okay, dharma typically says, and in our institution we believe, as in our culture we believe that children, it's a family is an institution, and we were all living together. Yesterday, that picture that I showed you was basically from that perspective. Kalpana ma'am was talking about there's no difference between the poor and the rich. When there is a calamity, yes, there is no difference. But we did see a difference yesterday where we saw the poor communities, they're all together. Okay, there's a problem, everybody stands up, they're all together. Whereas the problem, 9 feet water, 12 feet water, we saw in the huge apartments like DLF and Perumbakam and Thoraipakkam and all that. Most of the places, I'm sorry to say, were elders, almost abandoned, and if I can say, they were kind of staying alone. Children are abroad, children are somewhere else, and they were left to fend for themselves. It's not as if children wanted the parents to suffer. Parents are very happy about children doing, a set of things, they're very happy about it, but somewhere there is a fall in dharma there. Somewhere we are so focused on our selfish, or I don't even know if selfish is the right word, in our growth, that sometimes we tend to forget that parents have to be taken care too. So that is the difference between justice and dharma. What you can actually get a court to do, you can't do, outside of that. So what do? We at Shraddha work with marginalized women, and we try to mainstream them. And when I say marginalized, I'm not talking only about economical problems, but we're talking about social marginalization as well. And like I said, especially the reasons of gender, and especially the lower income groups, you find a lot of disparity. The man, irrespective of whether he's educated or not, he holds the wife under his thumb. So that's how it works. So at Shraddha, we decided we will work with those women, and we identified, we wanted to train those women. But before all of that, how did we even, actually land upon that? This was a chance finding where one day my maid Ramya, she was cleaning and, she was mopping, and I saw her, she was attempting to read a Times of India newspaper. And I went up to her and said, Tata oda paper irukuma, Dinamalar irukku, so why are you struggling with this English paper? She said, Akka, na vandu MA varakum padichirkenga. And that was really was a big shock for me, because I thought, people who are educated would not come for these kind of jobs, odd jobs. Then I asked her, why are you doing this? What is the necessity? And then she said, Akka, my mom used to work. She was a she was a maid. And I got married very early. I have 2 daughters. Now I'm separated. My husband has taken to drinking. I don't want to put up with all the nonsense. So I'm alone, and I'm 35. Government will not give me a job. I don't know if I have any skill set at all to go and apply for a job. What comes very easy to me, naturally to me, is that I've gone with my mom, I worked, and this is very comfortable for me because I can work. My child goes to school. I drop the child, come to work, go back, pick up the child before, I finish all my work before the school gets over. And I was taken one step, still more rattled when she said, "Na mattum illaka, enga building பக்கத்துல வந்து பாருங்க, they live in a LIG flat in T Nagar. So வந்து பாருங்க எவ்வளவு பேர் அது மாதிரி இருக்காங்க. என்ன மாதிரி there are a number of people." So we decided, let's do a dipstick study, and we identified 52 women in Gangaikaraipuram, Gangapuram, Dharmapuram and all that, in the location, in and around Vallurkottam. And we were actually talking to these women, and we figured out that the men folk were hardly 6th standard, 8th standard, whatever. They were doing things like they were carpenters or auto rickshaw fellows and things like that. But the lady of the house was educated. She was a graduate. Okay. But she was not able to take decisions for her children. Okay. She would like her children to go to a good school. She would like her children to go for tuitions or whatever. Get the child to do really well in life. But the husband doesn't understand. And most of the time there was sometimes physical and most of the time verbal abuses. And hence we asked them 5 questions and we asked them what your aspirations were. And many of them said we would like to be economically reasonably independent. We don't have too much of a time, but we would like to do some work and earn some money. But beyond that, one of the key things that they said was we would like to be respected. Our own self-esteem has gone down and we are being treated like doormats. So we would like to have a bit of recognition. Okay, and in the society, forget the society, my own children do not respect me. So I would like to be respected, to have some amount of self-esteem. And this study also threw a little more understanding of what was happening in that segment. Some of them were very open, very vociferous, they spoke about their problems. But many were ignorant, oblivious of the problem totally, because they thought that is the way life is. They thought that it is all right. Like Kalpana was saying, it's all right to sit on the floor. It is probably the way to do that. So when the man comes back from work, you are expected to go and feed him and whatever. He would come back drunk, but you would still have to be at his service. And it was they were so ignorant, they did not even realize that there could be another way to look at things, and they are human beings with equal, if not superior rights. Then another group we saw, they were at a point of reconciliation. They had actually understood, yes, there is a problem, but then I will reconcile to this because this is how my life is. And I would put up with this. So they were not happy inside, but then they were putting up with this. And the third group of people, they were completely, at a nirvana state, acceptance. I'm fine. I'm happy. I don't have a problem. I will take up all this. They completely accepted whatever was happening. But we realized that they all had aspirations and they wanted respect in the society and their families. And this is some data that we have. As of 1718, 70% of our, India's female literacy rate is about 70%. But only 19% in India, if you look at the female labor force participation, it's just that. There's so many lakhs and millions of women who are educated, but they're not putting their education to good use. So, our thought of Shraddha was to look at things from a dharmic way, and we believe justice is not something to be fought for or taken up in a court of law, but it should be the social order. While governments could, kind of bring out schemes after schemes, unless we understand the dharmic nature of human existence, things can't move forward. Yesterday's floods, the floods that we are seeing, in every single location, be it where the poor people live or the rich people live, wherever we were trying to pump out water, we saw so much of plastics. Okay, water was clogged simply because plastics were there. Okay, and I'm not talking about one gunny bag of plastic. I'm talking about, lorry loads of plastics which were there. So where is dharma? Our swadharma is to ensure that we keep our house clean and we also keep the society, the place that we live, clean. That's not happening. So I think a dharmic nature or the dharmic approach to life is extremely important. And be it from, women can be from the unrepresented or underserved segments, or it could be children from there. Justice needs to happen in a natural way. It has to be very natural. And a proactive approach rather than a reaction within a court. A proactive approach has to be there. So, which is where we believe that education could be a great leveler. Education can actually train the minds of people, be the women, and we work with children, to tell them that justice is a very natural process. You get educated, you get to know what your rights are, and you are not secondary to anybody. So that's where, we've started our work, and our focus has been completely into education. So what we attempt to do is to work with women, with children. Our work is in Tamil Nadu, predominantly in the small districts, in very, very small villages, where we are trying to see how much of, we have value education as one of our key deliverables, where we tell children that it is extremely important not just to be competitive, but also to be accommodative. So, it's very easy to say right now, but then those children have to compete for everything, be it for water. What is very normal to us in life is not very normal to them. So, be it for a toilet, they'll have to be in a queue. Be it for water, they'll have to be in a queue. And to tell them, be accommodative and nice, it is not so easy for them to do, but then we are working on that. So, this is what I would like to kind of conclude with. Life hasn't given them many options. So, let us look at that and look at a little bit of dharma and empathy in our hearts and see what we can do to this society. Thank you and Jai Hind.
In which he spoke about the fear that people have in Indian society of the results of empowerment of young women. And one of them involves freedom to choose their sexual choices also. And this is a sensitive topic, I know, and that we need to work on this with full understanding, because there is also a feeling that the moment you empower somebody, all these train of thoughts start coming in. So you have so many battles to fight. How do you choose the fight then?
So one of the basic things that we kind of tell them is they have to be rooted. They have to be rooted in our culture. They have to be rooted in, if everything is okay, there's nothing that can stop us, right? So we are trying to, kind of tell them that you can fly high, but then your legs have to be on the ground. So that is an education that we do for women as well as for kids. And our fundamental work is more with kids, where at the impressionable age we are able to put certain thoughts in them. So that's how we work.
There is also this fear of, as compared to what? How do you get rooted? Do you get rooted in an India that is 19th century, 20th century, yesterday? What kind of roots?
So this is basically, like Dr. Priya was saying, it's basically, in Bhagavatam they say there is something called a Narayana Kavacham. Okay? So you put that Narayana Kavacham every time, you wear it, and then, that's the gatekeeper. It tells you to allow a thought or not entertain a thought. Okay? So we keep telling those kids, ask yourself twice. Is it okay? You're crying for something, you're fighting with your parent. Is it okay? Can you not have it? Is it okay not to have it? So think twice. So we keep talking to people about the Narayana Kavacham.
Wonderful. Actually, I had a similar experience which I shared with an almanac called Kalanirnay, where we used Hanuman. I had that experience as a child. And Samartha Ramdas was the inspiration for this moment. So there is so much we can discuss and do. Thank you for your beautiful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Enlighten marginalized women and children. Thank you very much, ma'am.
I request Mrs. Lata Ramdas